All right, here we are. We are now 9-0 winning streak. This is our second longest winning streak since a 13-0 start way back in, what year was that again?
2008.
2009, I think. We won 13 straight. Yeah, that's what it was. 2009. What happened that year? Anything special?
Yeah, we lost the last 3 games of the season.
Yeah,
but it had a happy ending.
But we won the last 3 games of our football season, though. That was the most important part.
Yes, we won the 3 that counted.
Yep.
Ask Brett Favre and Peyton Manning.
Exactly. So we are now almost in uncharted territory. We are now 9-game winning streak. That first loss way back in September in week 1 seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
Well, I was talking about this to my wife last night. It just blows my mind that if you look at our schedule to this point, going into the season. Now, this isn't like yesterday. This is in late August before the season started. If you look at our schedule and the way that things were laid out before us, if there's any game that would have been a lead pipe cinch in my mind, it would have been a Jameis Winston-less Tampa Bay Buccaneers first game of the season. That's a slam dunk, and that's the only one that we've lost. But also, by the same token, if you had also told me that at any point and you and I have talked about this in recent weeks, if anyone had told me that the Saints would be on a 9-game winning streak at any point during this season, I'd have told you that you were crazy. But they've been the beneficiaries of some breaks, some let's just call it what it is. They have had the benefit of excellent timing. You've got the defending.
That's I was going to say.
You call it the. Go ahead.
I was going to say, who you play, it's when you play them, and
absolutely
that goes right to your point. We caught the Super Bowl champs with a lot of injuries. We didn't catch them. They're not as good of a team as they were in September. We unfortunately played Tampa Bay in a game that you and I have talked about this before. We think they had prepared to play that game since the end of last season.
Sure.
They worked on that. They wanted to win that game. And that was supposed to be a statement game. They were back that this was going to be a different Tampa Bay team. You remember when we had our old friend from Buck What You Heard on the show, Gene, and he was talking about how this was a different team, a different culture. This was not the same team that went, 5-11. And you look now, here in a couple days before Thanksgiving, you're right. They're not the same 5-11 team. They're probably a 3-13 team. But, I love you, Gene. I'm picking a little bit, but, I mean, he knows, and everyone knows. I mean, it's about when you play somebody. And we played Tampa again in about 2 weeks, and it's a totally different kind of team. That's why that loss seems like it was a lifetime ago. We have become a much better team. If you watch us from the Browns game to the first Falcons game to the Giants game, then you look at the game we just played this Sunday, it's just a steady progression of getting better, being more efficient. Breeze is playing better. Kamara's running even better. Michael Thomas is catching even better. And we'll talk about the other guys that have all stepped up. And, of course, Ingram is back. So, in the defense, most importantly, the defense is playing much, much better than it played those first 4 games of the season. But, hey,
absolutely,
we haven't even introduced ourselves to anybody. So, for the first time, somebody coming on this show, watching this show, who the hell are these guys? They just start talking. But that's what happens. You get into week 10, week 11 now. It's we're in the flow now. We're in the season. We're excited. We can't wait to talk about this stuff. I'm your host, Alan Ulrich, here on Under the Dome. I'm here with my friend Sean Williams, who is house sitting tonight, hence the lack of Saints paraphernalia behind him.
Yeah, I have that looks like wine glasses, doesn't it?
Yeah, you got shadows of those like flutes almost. So
yeah. Well, that's for the win Sunday.
there you go.
We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. As always, we want to thank Fan First Productions for sponsoring us. And we want to invite you guys to subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube. And follow us on Facebook at Under the Dome Podcast, on Twitter at Under the Dome PO1. Let me see. Where to begin? I saw a meme earlier this week. It was the 4 kids from wait a minute. Stand By Me.
So I thought you were going to say Sandlot for a minute, and I was like, no, Stand By Me.
No, it was Stand By Me. I had to sing the song to get to the right lyrics. I'm sorry. But it was, they had, over the faces were superimposed Drew Brees, Mark Ingram, Michael Thomas, and I think Kamara. And the top picture had, you see the 4 kids, and they say, hey, you want to see a dead body? And then there was an eagle facing down.
Yeah, one of the iconic lines of the film.
Yeah. On one hand, I looked at this game more so than the Rams, more so than the Vikings, more so than the Ravens, the Reds. I looked at this game as what would be the barometer for where this team is at. Now, while winning this game was very, very important, I don't want to jump the gun here. I'm not booking tickets in Atlanta, anything like that. The most important game for the New Orleans Saints right now is day after tomorrow. And then after Thanksgiving Day, the most important game is going to be the following Thursday in Dallas. One game at a time. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But I think that it was very important. And as we alluded to a moment ago, the timing of it. We've been able to catch these teams when maybe not 100%. What people, all these fan bases, they want to talk trash, and they want to, well, you didn't beat our start. Well, at the end of the season, all they do, they count up how many games you won and how many games you lost, as opposed to everyone else in your division, your conference, and all. That's all they go by. They don't go by strength of schedule, strength of opponent. None of that matters. All that matters at the end of the day is the fact that in the past 3 weeks we've scored 45, 51, and 48, if I'm recalling correctly. This is a very special team. Now, just how special remains to be seen. I told someone the other day, and I swore to myself and to them that I would never say this publicly, but I'm going to go ahead. Offensively, you're looking at something that you've never seen before. And you and I are both students of this game, so I want you to tell me whether I'm off base with this assumption. When you watch Drew Brees, Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith, that offensive line, if you go player by player, position by position, you're looking at some of the very best that have ever done it. And I don't mean the best Saints that have ever done it. I would put this offense up against Montana's 49ers. Let's see who else. The Patriots, the year that Moss was there.
85 Bears.
That's defensively.
Okay.
Now, I'm just talking about on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think that it's too far off base to say that this is one of those very, very special generational collections because they hit you from every direction at any given point in time. And you've gone up against some of the best coaches that this league could possibly bring to bear. And at the end of the day, they're sitting there going, yeah, I don't know. How do you stop them? Fortunately, that's worked out for us. Now, please don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not saying that this team is going to run roughshod, run the table the rest of the year. If they do, great. If they don't, well, that's neither here nor there when I'm talking in terms of this. I just think that a decade from now, when we look back on this team, we're going to say, wow, man, that was something that nobody had ever seen before. You've got Michael Thomas, who Sunday made history by being the first, if I'm trying to remember correctly, the first player to record 1,000-yard seasons in each of his first three. Is that not accurate?
I think that is. I think, 2016, 2017, 2018, yeah.
Yeah.
He was 1,000-yard receiver in 2016 with he and Brandon Cooks. And he was a 1,000-yard receiver last year.
Yeah, he went over 1,000 against the Eagles.
Yes.
And you and I are going to get into this in a bit more detail in a little bit. But the season that the old man is having, wow. What is it now? 25-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Throwing at, I think, at this point, maybe 78%. Yeah,
he's somewhere around there. He's about to shatter his record for completion percentage.
It's some of the numbers that, and I mean, you go from Kamara to Ingram to Thomas to Breeze. Each one of them is doing something. I mean, they're setting a record on a weekly basis.
He is. Speaking of Ingram, he is about 350 yards away from passing Deuce McAllister as the all-time leading rusher. He is 2 touchdowns, I believe, away from passing Deuce as the all-time touchdown rusher on, as a running back. And because Colston has the record for all the touchdowns, catching, receiving from a non-quarterback position. I mean, and Kamara, I believe. Kamara he may have broken. Let me see something here. He may have broken, or he's a touchdown behind George Rogers, 13 on the ground. So let me see something here. I know he got one reception. Let me see.
Well, while you research that, I remember that during the broadcast Sunday, they also pointed out that this team is in a position to challenge the 1950 Los Angeles Rams.
Yes, they are.
For the highest average score. They're possibly, I want to say it was either the Greatest Show on Turf Rams or the Moss Patriots for single season points.
No, the 1950 Rams have the record for the highest point average per game that they've beaten. I mean, that they've scored. I think it was like 38 or 39 points per game.
38.8.
Yeah, and the Saints are right behind that. So they're the Greatest Show on Turf and the 98 Vikings and all those teams are well behind that. And the 83 Redskins, all those teams are well behind that. Here's why the 1950 Rams are still up there. First off, it's a 12-game season. No, I do know these stats. I looked it up the other day because a friend of mine and I were talking about this.
I read your post.
Yeah. The 1950 Rams played in a 12-game season. They scored 70 on the Baltimore
Chicago.
Colts. No,
Yeah,
Baltimore Colts, and they dropped another 65 on the Detroit Lions. So in a 12-game season, you got a 70 burger and a 60-plus burger on there. That's going to bump your average up way high because they got some 40s, and that team went 9-3, and they lost in the playoffs. So
by 2 points.
Yeah, cautionary tale.
Yeah.
They also talk. I saw a stat talking about the only team. It's very likely that you can have at least one, if not two teams, go to the playoffs in the NFC at 15-1, and the last teams that went 15-1 in the playoffs, don't count the 2007 Patriots; they went undefeated. 15-1 in the playoffs, the 84 49ers, the 85 Bears, the 98 Vikings. Come on.
I know who the last ones were to do it.
Yeah, 2015 Panthers, and there was one more. Come on, I can think of it. They went 15-1. It was the Steelers, 04 Steelers. And only the 84 49ers and the 85 Bears won it all. We all know what happened to the 2015 Panthers when they played the Denver Broncos. And the 98 Vikings, the 04 Steelers, and who else did I say? The 2011 Packers. They all lost in the playoffs. The Steelers and the Vikings lost in the championship game, and we know what happened to the Packers in 2011, right? They lost in the divisional round to the Giants, and that's why so many people look back at that 2011 Saints team and said, "Man, you knocked off the Packers. We would have been able to host." If we would have beaten the 49ers in that game, we would have hosted the NFC Championship game against the Giants, who we blew out earlier that season in the Dome where we hadn't lost, and we were hanging all kinds of points on people. So, yeah, that's why the 2011 season bothers people like me, because that was that team. And that's why, as you were talking about the stuff, we're seeing things we haven't seen before. I got asked, are you a believer now? And I'm like, not yet. I'm going to look back at certain games, I think, when this season's over with and think, okay, this is when they, like in 2009, you were like, when they beat the Patriots, you were like, yeah, this is the team. This is the point where I'm like, okay, we are a real team. This is a team that's going to go somewhere. This isn't a team like is going to win 12 or 13 games and go one and done in the playoffs, a la Jim Moore. Well, this isn't a team that's going to make it to the divisional round, and we got some weaknesses, and they're going to pick us apart, and we lose. No, this in 2009 after that Patriots game, we're kind of like, yeah, this is a team that's going to go. This is a team that can really win a Super Bowl for us. I don't know if I don't know what game that's going to be yet when we look back at the season, because we have to win in the playoffs and get to that Super Bowl. We have to win, get past that divisional round, get back to the NFC Championship game, see who we play in the NFC Championship game, and then I'll start thinking about winning the Super Bowl. When did I discover this was a championship team? All that stuff. There's a lot of season left. Sure. And these are great wins right now, but we got to keep going. You saw that game last night. That tells me we got to keep going. Oh, by the way, I looked at my stat. Alvin Kamara has 11 touchdowns on the ground. So he's got another 4 he's done receiving, but he's got 11 on the ground. He needs 2 more to tie George Rogers for 13 touchdowns on the ground in a single season. 3 more, obviously, he wins it. So that's another record to keep in mind as we go through this season.
And since I have him in fantasy, I would like to see that desperately
I'm sure.
in another 2 days. But I think that while now obviously the Tampa Bay game, the Cleveland game, and in a lot of respects the Minnesota game, we're sitting there watching this and going, "Oh my God! If we have to depend on our defense, we are dead." Fortunately, that narrative has changed somewhat. Dennis Allen has done a magnificent job as of late in making the adjustments. I used to tell Michelle all the time, don't panic before halftime, because at halftime they make their adjustments. They come out, we're a second half team, and here we go. As of late, it hasn't taken quite halftime to do that. And Eli Apple has improved drastically from that first week that he played, when he, in all likelihood, he probably shouldn't have played in that first game, but he did, and begrudgingly. But being absolutely fair, I will say this. For his shortcomings, P.J. Williams has, in recent weeks, he has made some damn clutch plays. He's a pass breakup, a forced fumble here and there. Now, I probably shouldn't say that, because he'll probably allow 6 touchdowns against the Falcons now, but my point is, even PJ is playing much better as of late. And when the game was over Sunday, I texted Alan and I said, "Is this team special?" Yes. Exactly how special? Well, that's going to be the from what happens here will determine exactly how special this team is going to be. And all the personnel moves, the Teddy Bridgewater come in, the Dez Bryant come in. One of the things that stands out in my mind the most about this game Sunday is we are handing the defending Super Bowl champions the worst point differential loss in history of the Super Bowl. We have doled out the biggest point differential against a defending Super Bowl champion in history, and we got a 6-time Pro Bowler standing on the sidelines just because we didn't have anywhere on the field to put him. I think that as much as the NFL may not want to hear it, and as harsh as it may sound for the rest of the teams on our schedule, there is still upside left on this team.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Taysom Hill hasn't even thrown a touchdown yet.
No, not yet. Not yet. He's getting close.
I'm kind of pissed because Baker Mayfield has caught a pass in the end zone and Drew Brees hasn't.
They're jumping. They've been jumping on those routes. Like we talk about the Rams game, that flip back. Hill was supposed to throw it right back to Drew, and they jumped on that route. So it's coming. It's coming.
They're just gonna wait for somebody. Hopefully,
here's what I think is going to happen, and y'all, you can laugh at me, but I think it'll happen one day. Brees is going to throw a nice deep touchdown pass to Michael Thomas or someone like that, and he'll score the touchdown. They'll go for 2 because why the hell not? But they're going to go for 2, and it's going to be that same RPO formation with Kamara and Hill in the backfield. Brees is going to be split out really wide, and the defense, for whatever reason, they have like a token guy stand out there, but he's really watching Hill and Kamara. And they're going to fake it to Kamara. And like the line's going to pull one way, Hill's going to go the other way. And that's when that guy will crash down. Then Hill's just going to flip it right to Breeze, who's staying in the end zone by himself. I just envision that happening. You know,
if I didn't know any better, I would swear you were a quarterback.
Oh yeah, I know. But you know, he had that little jump pass he tried against Cincinnati where he faked it into the line. And this is something I wanted to talk about this too, actually, about the Eagles game. What the Eagles defense did. And, you know, I know a lot of people, Philadelphia fans, are pissed off and they want all the coaches fired. They want all the, you know, they think the season's lost and everything else like that. But the Eagles really had a good game plan to win this game. And I'll talk about that in a second. But let me go back up a little bit, talk about that jump pass. You know, because teams are starting to figure out, look, Hill's just going to run with it. He's not going to give it to Kamara. He's not going to, you know, he's not going to throw it. He's going to run. So they're teeing off and going right after Hill on these RPO plays. So like that jump pass was an example of, yeah, it looks like he's just going to run up the middle. Then he just kind of does that little leap and lofted it to Ben Watson. It just wasn't a good throw. But you're going to get a little twist like that, I think. They're going to take advantage of the fact that defenses are ignoring Kamara and know that Hill's going to run, and they're going to go after him. And that's just going to encourage Peyton to do more and more things with him. I know a lot of fans are mad in the Eagles game, early in the Eagles game, because Hill was out there on first down, and it was supposed to be a pass play, and you're like, he threw a terrible pass, and even Joe Buck didn't realize it was Hill back there until the pass came out, and he's like, that doesn't like a Breeze pass. Oh, well, no wonder. Hill was back there.
Okay, if Drew is going to wear number 9, Taysom needs to wear, like, number 105, where we from the press box, we can tell.
Yeah, we can identify. Yeah, exactly. But here's what I was going to say about the Eagles game. Yeah, I shared I think on almost every Saints group I'm in, including Under the Dome. Peter King wrote a great article about how Sean Payton is coming up with just these creative plays and doing twists off of things that he sees, or he's been looking at film and thinking about it, and just that morning coming up with a play. And they ran it Sunday, a play he came up with on Saturday. Well, the Eagles defensively, and Drew Brees talked about this, defensively completely changed everything they had been doing since week 1, and even the stuff they saw from last year. They came in an entirely different plan. So Drew was saying things like, I saw more man coverage in this game than anything I saw in film with the Eagles. They did totally different stuff. They doubled Kamara and Thomas everywhere they went on the field. So Kamara and Thomas didn't get a lot of passes. And this is why I was excited about the potential of this team. And I think when we look back at the season, this was a turning point game, because in past years, defenses that did that took away what you like to do, like Seattle in 2013, taking away Jimmy Graham, or, in some of the other playoff games or some of the other games that we lost, taking away Marcus Colston, taking away Darren Sproles, taking away Pierre Thomas, the stuff that Bill Belichick always says, I'm going to take away whatever you like to do and make you beat us with somebody else. This year, that's exactly what the Eagles did, and look what we had. Traquan Smith, 10 catches, 100-something yards, and a touchdown. Austin Carr caught a touchdown. Yeah, Austin Carr caught a touchdown pass. Kirkwood was killing them in the beginning of the game. They ran a screen pass to Josh Hill. You know, all the things that all those players who don't throw to him, because I don't know if he's going to catch that ball or not. You got to give it to Michael Thomas because we need this conversion. These guys made those plays. So if that's the case, because we probably will, when we play the Rams again, and the Rams go and get Aqib Talib and stick him on Michael Thomas, because Marcus Peters is going to say, man, you ain't keep talking all that shit because you're not gonna beat us this time. Oh yeah, go chase number 10 around all day long. See how you feel, Peters. We're still coming at you. You know, that's what you're seeing. Or you know what, Peters? 18's going to chew you up. And we haven't even talked about Brandon Marshall yet, and whatever Brandon Marshall can offer us. You know, so that was what was so exciting about that Eagles game, was all these unknown players or previously unknown players making plays, scoring touchdowns, very reminiscent of that Dallas game back in 2006 where John Carney got 3 touchdowns and what was that receiver's name again? Jamal Jones caught a touchdown pass. You remember this game I'm talking about? We beat him 42. What was that?
Mike Carney. John Carney was kicker.
No, that's right. Mike Carney. Sorry. Mike Carney. Yeah, not John Carney. Mike Carney.
John Carney was the guy that missed the extra point against Tampa Bay after the
yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
Against the Jaguars, not Tampa Bay.
Jaguars.
Right state, wrong team.
Yeah. Well,
hey, we all make
a loss is still a loss.
Yeah, that's it. But, I mean, it was very reminiscent of that Dallas game from 2006 where the people you would expect to score didn't score, and we still hung in Dallas. Against Dallas, we hung 42 points on somebody. And this game, we hung 48 points on the Eagles with a bunch of guys, most of the touchdowns coming from guys, not the quote-unquote stars of the team. So that's
not the guys that I have on my fantasy roster. It takes a lot. Now, I guess, to be fair, and I hate this conversation. I really do. I for obvious reasons to anybody that knows me, but for the purpose of this broadcast, I'll entertain this thought process. Did the New Orleans Saints run up the score on the Philadelphia Eagles?
No. You know, you look at the final score and you say, yeah, they did. But when was the last touchdown scored? The last touchdown was scored within the first 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. You know, they didn't score a touchdown on 4th and 7 with 6 minutes left in the game or 3 minutes left in the game. This was scored on a drive that began at the end of the third quarter with less than 2 minutes left in the third quarter. I got into an argument with a guy on Twitter and whatever. I mean, the guy was respectful. I don't have anything against him. I could see his point, but I just kept reminding him that, you know, games where the Saints have lost, he's like, well, no one's come back from 31 points. Well, I mean, there's a first time for everything. But I kept reminding him games that the Saints had lost because a team came back either in the second half or the fourth quarter to win. And teams that should have been buried, you know, teams that were down by 17 or 21 points. Yeah, it's less than 31, but still, the game is not over. The game is not in hand. And I'll say that to people who argue that we ran up the score. I'll say it to people who argue Drew shouldn't have been in there the entire fourth quarter. You should have had Teddy Bridgewater in there. All that stuff. You know, you want to win the game. What if we put Bridgewater in there and he throws an interception or he fumbles the ball or it's a sack fumble and suddenly the Eagles are back in the game? They get a touchdown, then an onside kick, then they get another touchdown. Or they, you know, we go 3 and out because Bridgewater can't move the team because they're just trying to run the ball. You know, so many things can happen that you have to. I hate to sound like the head coach of Arizona, University of Arizona, the Sun Devils. He was the coach of the Jets.
Herm Edwards.
Herm Edwards. Hello, you play to win the game. You don't just play just to play it. You play to win the game. And you play to win the game by keeping your starters in until you think the game has been decided. You're not playing just to say, okay, we got enough points. Let's see what our backups look like. No, I don't care about the backups. The backups should never see the field because that's when you have a good season. When the backups see the field, like the Eagles, you're having a bad season. Or like the Falcons, you're having a bad season. That's when you have backups out there playing. You don't.
I look at it this way. This ain't college. This is not the '83 Nebraska Cornhuskers. And these Jenkins pay this week is absolutely the same pay as he made last week.
Yeah.
It don't make a difference. These guys are paid professionals. Their only job is to stop that offense from scoring 48 points.
Yep.
Were you trying to make a statement? You damn right. We're making a statement. We are the best National Football League at this point. Because on that is the only place that a team like the New Orleans Saints has the opportunity to make that statement. They don't have people going to bat for them in the media, on every damn talk show, on every channel, NFL Network, ESPN, all these people. The Rams. Well, hey, I got news for you. We beat the Rams' ass. It was a 10-point game. It wasn't even that close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's funny because, they had a Chiefs fan last night arguing that Mahomes is the MVP candidate because he's like, well, who did the Saints play this year? And somebody responded
everybody in our schedule.
No, somebody responded that we beat the guys you just lost to. So, that's
you know what?
That's Twitter.
Our quarterback never had one strip sack fumble.
Yeah.
Our quarterback didn't throw a pick in that game. And, just as kind of a +1 bonus, he didn't get sacked.
Well,
one time in the last 5 games.
And again, this goes right back to what we started the show with. It's, this is, like you said, it's not college because you don't get to pick your schedule. The schedule maker make your schedule. You play the schedule you get. You play the teams you get. All that stuff. But the key of all of this, what we said in the beginning, it's when you play these teams. When did you beat these teams? When we beat Baltimore, Baltimore was feeling very confident and they were at home. The Baltimore that's playing now is beat up and has very little confidence. But when we played them, they were a much better team. The Eagles team we beat is not as good as the Eagles team that started the season. But you play them when you play them. Okay? So, when people start with that whole foolishness of, oh, you got an easy schedule, you got a hard schedule, that's college crap. That's high school crap. These are all professional football teams. All these teams can win on any given
University of Alabama. I'm sorry to interrupt. The University of Alabama can schedule Cadwallader School of Tire Maintenance and get away with it. 85 points on that team. Oh, goody! That doesn't happen in the National Football League.
No. Look at the game. Look at the game that preceded ours. The game that started at noon. I watched the Falcons-Cowboys game, and then after that game was over with, they went back to the Carolina Panthers and Detroit Lions game. Carolina is a playoff quality team, but they lost to the Lions, okay, who are not a very good team. They're a team that's in shambles, okay? Because you've got a coach who's doing pretty much what John Gruden's been doing, but at a much slower, more deliberate pace. He's going to build this team the way he wants to build this team. And Carolina lost that game because, for whatever reason, they decided to go for 2. Instead of acting like, hey, we got to keep up with these Saints teams. We're fighting for our playoff lives. We're going for 2. And they didn't get it, so they earned a loss. Okay?
Well, I don't fault them for going for the win there. And they made the right call. They made play was there. You had a bad play by an inaccurate quarterback. And that was the difference in the game.
Well, but it's more than that. 2 points may win the game, but it doesn't put the game out of reach per se. Because whether they tied the game or they got the extra point, they got 22 to 20. I'm sorry. Yeah, 22 to 20. No, it would have been 21. 21 to 20. I had to think about what the score of this game was.
Yeah.
Whether it was 21 or 20, a field goal still beats you. And the Lions would have about a minute, and I think they had 1 or 2 timeouts to get in field goal range. That play you do if it's like in the Titans game over there in Europe, where either you get it or you go into overtime or you lose. Not that the other team has a shot in regulation to go down and kick a field goal and win the game. That's my biggest disagreement with that play, but it is what it is. But, and the Redskins game, I think they showed the end of that game too. The Redskins are division leader. They lose their quarterback to a Joe Theismann injury. Their season's now in flames. Dallas, who was an embarrassment to football a few weeks ago, is now sliding back into playoff contention. These are all things going back to, are you running up the score? How fast a season can turn around in the NFL? The Falcons thought when they got to 4-4 that they were going to get back in the playoff race. And we know what happens when you go 4-4 with that many injuries going through those 79 seasons. It's only a matter of time before somebody kicks your head back in and goes, no, it's not happening. You will lose to the Browns. You will lose to the Cowboys. You're going to lose to more teams. You're not getting above 500. Forget those dreams. So that's what I'm trying to say as far as running up the score and things like that is how fast your fortunes can change in the NFL. There's only 16 games. Everyone's got to count. And you cannot afford to let up off the gas and give away a win that you should have had that you didn't get.
Yeah.
And we saw that. I've been seeing that a lot this year with coaches making decisions and they snatch defeat from the jaws of victory by doing
exactly. That. The London game, what's his name in Tennessee?
Vrabel. Sorry.
Had the game, and I mean, you got every ounce of momentum that's in that stadium, and it's like you're no.
The Eagles against the Panthers earlier this season. The Eagles are killing the Panthers for 3 quarters. Then in the fourth quarter, well, it was beginning of the third. But in the fourth quarter, the Panthers come back and win the game. That's what I'm talking about. It's we see it so many times. That damn Madden game that was put on for Monday Night Football between the Rams and the Chiefs.
I don't know. I was sitting there watching it going, oh my God, this reminds me so much of the San Diego Miami playoff game.
That was a different kind of game, though. I mean, that had a lot of defense in it too.
Actually,
but yeah,
my first thought was the last college game that I actually got to watch Pat Mahomes play.
Yeah,
and it was Texas Tech versus the University of Oklahoma with Baker Mayfield, Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, Dede Westbrook. Pat Mahomes in that game threw 80 plus, I think it was something like 88 attempts. He passed for over 800 yards. He scored, I want to say, either 57 or 59 points and lost.
Yeah, it's like the old University of Houston games in the late 80s, early 90s, the run and shoot games of with
Andre Ware.
Andre Ware and David Klingler. You know, they're putting up, on average, 500 yards passing. You know, 7 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns in a game. That kind of stuff.
Who starts for you on defense? What, defense?
Yeah. You know, so, but that's what I'm saying. You know, that game, we talked about a little bit off air. I'm doing laundry. I go and see, okay, the Chiefs just scored a touchdown. All right, I'm going to go in there and take the wet clothes out of the washing machine, put them in the dryer. Do that, walk back in, and the Chiefs are kicking an extra point. What the hell just happened? The Rams hit the ball. How did that happen? Well, it was a sack fumble, and they scored a touchdown, and now the Chiefs are in the lead. You know, it's like almost like the early days of Mike Tyson fights. Don't get up and go get something to drink because it's over. First round, 2 punches, and the guy's on the ground. I'll take my $20 million. You know, I just took a dive. Yeah, that's what it was like in some cases. So, you know, when we talk about
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just going to say, when we talk about running up the score and you know, this team's defeated, you just got to let off the gas, put your backups in, that kind of stuff. No, not in this league. Not now. You know, that you could have done that 5, 6, maybe 10 years ago. That was probably, you know, the teams are pretty much buried. But no, I mean, Wentz was still out there. Wentz is still out there slinging that ball. He threw 2 more interceptions to Chris Banjo. That is a backup. You know, so he's still slinging the ball all over the place. Who knows what could happen? You take your guy out, we'll take ours out, kind of thing. If you concede the game, like going back to that 2009 game with the Patriots, Brady came out in the 4th quarter. You know,
Brady came out in the 3rd quarter.
Okay.
I can remember that vividly. I'm sitting there at my dad's and we're watching this game, and they kicked off, and the camera went on to the Patriots sideline, and Brady's just sitting there going,
yeah. If you want to go no moss and throw the damn foul in, then, you know, Breeze comes out, Kamara comes out, and we're just going to run the ball and we'll just go home. But we're
going to go with that tight end that we picked up when we were in Cincinnati. Or, excuse me, that running back that we picked up when we were in Cincinnati. We pulled him out of the crowd.
Yeah, you're still slinging them all over the place, and we're going to keep the guys in there because, you know, I hate garbage points. I hate a game that looks close than it really is. You know, so I mean that's my attitude when it comes to that. You know, and always a team that gets scored on is the pissed off team, the fan base that does the scoring, and they won the game. They like it. You know, it's always going to be that way. So you're not trying to make those guys happy.
I went through this debate a few years ago when the New Orleans Saints played the Peyton Manning-less Colts.
Oh, 62-7, yeah.
And people were, they run up that scar. Well, you know, I can't help but think back to, I don't know, 1967 through maybe 1980. When people saw the New Orleans Saints on their schedule, and they'd come into our house and just kick the ever-loving shit out of us, and never give it a second thought and laugh at the fact that our fans are sitting up there with paper bags on. And, anytime the Saints made ESPN's highlight reel, it was always because Joe Montana brought his team back from like 750 points with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter and beat the Saints. Hey, them days are gone.
Hey, and you see that, we got to jump over to Falcon Hate Week. But you see that with what the odds makers did this week with the point spread on the Falcons. They made the Saints, they started out as a 14-point favorite and are now a 13-point favorite. I guess the bookies,
Deion Jones is worth 1 point, huh?
Well, the bookies are tired of taking it on the chin, I think, because the Saints are crushing the point spread. So they made the Falcons in a series and a game where it's usually one score, 3 to 4 point difference. They made 13 points. So if you take the Saints, you take the Falcons in the points. I think that's how it works. I'm not a gambler, but if you take the points, you're counting on the Saints to win by more than 14 points.
Yes, that's exactly right.
In a rivalry game where the history of the rivalry is that you don't beat the other guy by more than 3 to 4 points, generally.
Well, let me ask you this. I've heard the Saint Killer Deion Jones is coming back, and I, right off the top of my head, I can't recall the other 2 or 3 that's supposed to. Is it going to be just too little, too late for the Falcons in terms of the 2018 season?
Well, you know how I talked about that Peter King article earlier.
Yes.
That Peter King article? Sean Payton talked about Sidney Jones for the Eagles, and he said Sidney Jones. Well, you wouldn't call him Sidney Jones; you just call him 22. He says number 22 is coming off of a bad hamstring. We're going to go right at him. We're going to hit him because he's coming off of a hamstring injury. He's not going to hold up. He's probably going to check out early in that game, and that's exactly what happened. First play from scrimmage, they ran an off-tackle play with Mark Ingram. And he's isolated one-on-one with Sidney Jones. And Sidney Jones is a speed bump, and I'm probably insulting speed bumps everywhere. But Sidney Jones is basically a speed bump on that 40-yard run by Mark Ingram. And sure enough, before the second quarter or right about the second quarter, Sidney Jones checked himself out of the game. He was injured. So, yeah, you're going to put Deion Jones back in there. This will be his first game back. He was inactive last week. You're going to put him in the game? I promise you, Peyton is going to send Ingram right out. Actually, he's probably going to send Zach Line at him first. And then he's going to say, run up Zach Line's backside. He'll block him right into where you're going to go, drop a shoulder on him, and step on him on your way to the end zone. We're going to find out really early in that game because of a running play or some play how well Deion Jones is going to hold up in this game. And coming back from ankle surgery, foot surgery that he's coming back from, I don't know if this is a good game for him to come back because he's going to have to run and cut on that foot. And I promise you, you're going to get Dan Arnold on him. You're going to see Kirkwood run on him. You're going to see Ingram run at him. Kamara try and cut away from him. Make that guy move all over the field and see how good he really is, how healthy he really is. And so it's probably not going to be a good game for him to come back at. He's especially on a short week like this. So we'll see.
I don't see the if you're making a playoff run, maybe. But the Falcons are, for lack of a better way of putting it, the Falcons are doing nothing more than trying to save face with their fan base, possibly trying to salvage Sarkisian's job.
You're trying to salvage an 8-8 season. It may not be Sarkisian's job, but you're trying to salvage an 8-8 season out of this. Maybe mathematically you're not eliminated, especially if Carolina keeps losing, you're not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs because the NFC East stinks. So you're competing with, you look at the NFC East, because there's nobody. I'm sorry, Seattle's got the same record as the Falcons, but the Cardinals and the 49ers are not going to the playoffs. I mean, that's they're playing for the top 5 positions of the draft. And the NFC East is a dumpster fire. You know, you've got a reeling Redskins team, and you've got Dallas, who is suddenly starting to come back. The Eagles are, you know, in shambles because of injuries, and the Giants are so far behind. So that's what the Falcons are looking at. But that loss to Dallas really hurts them at 4-6. They lose one more game, they're really out of the playoff picture. So I can see why they would want to bring Deion Jones back for this game. But this is not the kind of game you bring him back for. And on a short week like this, it's going to be tough on a guy coming back from injury. We saw this with Delvin Breaux when he tried to come back from a broken leg from short-term IR. You know, I just don't see him being that effective. Now that I've laid out that whole thing, watch next week. We come back and, you know, he's done this. He got an interception off of Breeze. He got a sack fumble. He had this monster game. You know, we've just cursed the Saints because of this. But I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of health. I can't see him being able to do all this. And I think the Saints are going to target him early to really see how good a shape he is in to come back from short-term IR from foot surgery. And I think he just won't hold up. I really do. I think he's going to have a lot of problems out there. He is not the Deion Jones that we saw last year. You know, that's what I'm confident of that.
He's not Deion Jones that is going to get at least one pick off of Drew Brees every time we meet up with him. I say that, and that'll the first pass that Brees throws.
Right.
And my wife gets on to me for that all the time. But is there any legitimate prospect of the Falcons pulling the upset here?
Well, yeah, the offense is still good. I mean, you still have Calvin Ridley. You still have Julio Jones. You know, they have a good offense. Matt Ryan could still carve you up if you can't get pressure on him. You know, so there is always a possibility this becomes a shootout, and the defense can't, you know, like what we saw with last night with the Rams and the Chiefs. It could turn into that kind of game. And, you know, last team with the ball wins. So, yeah, there's always a chance the Falcons can upset us. That's why that point differential spread that they gave is pretty ridiculous, because that's a lot of points to give up to a division rival. I can see that against, believe it or not, against the Eagles, because these are teams that don't normally face each other. But the Saints and the Falcons know each other very, very well. And they know what Sean Payton does. They know the kind of things he does. And they have an offense that can score a lot of points. They haven't been, but they have always had the potential to break out and just light up the scoreboard. So, you know, every one of these games that's left in the schedule, you know, you're tempted to say, okay, we went through the hard part of the schedule because we have the Falcons, Dallas at Dallas, who, you know, Dallas is really built on a running game, and we happen to have the number one rush defense. We'd love to make Dak Prescott beat us. At Tampa, you know, Tampa's reeling with so many damn turnovers. And then Carolina, you know, we swept them last year. You know, this is a totally different team, but, you know, if we're rolling and Carolina's reeling, you know, it's a game. That's a game that, you know, we could lock up the division right there. And the last few games don't matter. But, you know, that's assuming a lot. So then you play Pittsburgh and Carolina again, but they're both at home. In that dome, yeah. I can't see Carolina winning that game if we need that game. And I think the Steelers, they have a lot of weapons again, but I think we're a better team than the Steelers. So,
I think that the possibilities of the Steelers with Le'Veon Bell coming into the Superdome would be a lot different than they're going to have with James Conner. And that's nothing against James Conner, because I have absolutely the utmost respect for the guy. And I absolutely love what he's been able to accomplish and do in Pittsburgh this year. I'm a realist, and I
don't think Pittsburgh's defense matches up well with the Saints' offense. I think
I don't think that there's a defense in this league that matches up with what New Orleans is doing offensively. I really don't.
Well,
that's not arrogance.
The Panthers have a shot, but again, it's because you're a divisional foe, and then you don't know what's going to happen with Tampa. Weird shit could happen with Tampa. Tampa can put up a lot of yards. They turn the ball over. That's what gets them.
I heard Sunday that they were minus 23 or 24.
Yeah, it's something like that. Famous Jameis Winston's turnovers. He's got. I think he threw 4 in one game, he threw 5 in another. Yeah, I mean, it's just, and then Fitzmagic's over. You're back to Fitztragic with his turnovers. So again, they're all games that we could lose because they're divisional games. They know us. So who knows? That's why I don't want to say the hard part of the schedule is over. We're now into the easier part of the schedule. I don't want to say that at all. Every game's still a hard game, because of what you had Monday night. If you want home field advance throughout the playoffs, you got to match those guys win for win now. You got to get it to we're both 15-1 at the end of the season. If the Bears don't beat the Rams, it's got to be 15-1 to the end of the season, and then we win the tiebreaker. Because even though I think we can beat the Rams in Los Angeles, I'd rather play them in the Dome, because that field, and I don't know if you could see that last night, that field, when it gets to be January and those cold fronts come through, and you got hits that Pacific air, you get a wet field. You get almost a fog to it. The air is very humid and cold. So players start slipping and sliding all over the place. I just don't want to play in Los Angeles in January. I want them to have to come here, and deal with that noise and deal with that rabid crowd. Let them deal with that stuff.
Absolutely. I don't it's worked once before. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, and if we got to win 15 games to do it, then by God, let's do it. That's what we have.
There's no one left on this schedule that we cannot beat.
No.
I think that we've reached the point in the season where we can legitimately say, of all the teams that are left, we've beat better. We've stopped. If you want to talk about running backs, we've stopped better. We've shut down better receivers than what you're going to bring up against us. Yeah. We've beat better defenses. Now, the ironic thing about the NFL, there's still that going out on the field every Sunday, Thursday, Monday, whatever, and doing it. I'm not going to sit here and pontificate. Did I use the right word there?
Yes, you did. Yes,
all right, pontificate. I'm going to have to write that down. I'm not going to pontificate that we're going to go 15-1 on this season. I don't really care. Whatever we have to do to be one of the two teams playing on February the 3rd, I don't care. Whatever it takes. And I don't think that I'm out of line by saying that this New Orleans Saints team is of the mindset, whatever it takes to be one of the last two, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the key, and it's because of the MVP candidate, the guy who should be MVP, not because it's a lifetime achievement award, but because of the season he's having, Drew Brees. I mean, there's no way getting around it. You saw last night, Mahomes, he threw 6 touchdown passes. He's probably going to shatter Tom Brady's record for most touchdowns. No, I'm sorry, it's Peyton Manning's, isn't it now? Peyton Manning, I think, has 51 touchdowns or 52 touchdown passes for the year back in 2014. This is now Mahomes is probably going to get the touchdown record, but Breeze has everything else going for him this year. The completion percentage, and Sean froze. I can see it in the picture because he's not responding to anything I'm saying. Sean, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Okay, you're frozen in the box, but I don't know what happened to you.
As are you. It's probably
okay. Now you stop talking. What happened? That's weird. Okay. Anyway, I was talking about the Saints. Drew Brees being the league MVP. Brees has only. Okay, you're back. Good. I was just talking about.
He scores.
We were talking about the Saints. Talking about Drew Brees being the MVP. I said Mahomes is probably going to break the season touchdown record because he'll probably throw close to 60 touchdown passes this year. He'll probably have 5,000 plus yards. But what was the argument they gave us in 2011? Why Aaron Rodgers got the MVP trophy over Drew Brees, who had broke Dan Marino's yardage record back in 2011. It's because Brees had more interceptions than Rodgers, and Rodgers had a higher quarterback rating than Brees, and he beat him head to head. But but that was supposedly the criteria why Rodgers got it over Brees. Well, Brees is going to have a higher QB rating, the highest QB rating, quite probably in NFL history. We talked about the 1950 Rams already. We're probably going to beat that record. We talked about his completion percentage. He's probably going to set that to a level that no one's going to be able to match. So are we going back to yardage and TDs again to justify this? We shouldn't, but it's so damn subjective. My thing too, and I've talked about this in different forums, but my thing too, people forget Alex Smith took this exact same offense and got it to the playoffs last year. Okay? Mahomes is playing better than Alex Smith, but you take Mahomes out of that team and you put Alex Smith there, they're still winning 9 to 10 games in that division. You take Breeze out and you put Bridgewater, just pick your quarterback, This team is probably not 9-1. This team is probably closer to 7-3 because we probably lose to the Rams. We probably lose to the Vikings. We may have lost to the Falcons the first time around. Breeze on this team makes this team more dangerous. Even with as good of an offensive line we have, even with the running game, even with Sean Payton calling the plays, it's Breeze's uncanny accuracy, which is making Michael Thomas's completion percentage unreal and has allowed him to go for 1,000 yards. It has made, in this Eagles game, guys like Keith Kirkwood, guys like Traquan Smith, like Dan Arnold, these guys become productive players. I don't think that's the case in Mahomes and Chiefs because who's he throwing to? Kelsey, who we know is good, Hill, who we know is good, and he's handing off to Hunt. He's not making, say, is it Conley, the receiver, the other receiver?
Yes.
He's not making He's not making Conley a Cooper Cup like you see in the Rams. Okay, he's not making Conley this unbelievable threat. Conley just gets the occasional pass. It's the same guys he's throwing to over and over again. He's throwing to Kelsey. He's throwing to Hill. And he's going to give it to Hunt. Or he's going to send it to Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins is the other receiver they've got. Breeze makes everybody a weapon. If you're a receiving eligible player, a ball is probably going to come to you. That's to me, that's what makes you an MVP. You are that much of a threat. We could put Breeze on almost any team in the league, and that team is that much better than they would have been with any other quarterback. And that's why I think he's the MVP, and I think he deserves it this year.
I think that if for no other reason, he's a quarterback of the most proficient, prolific, whatever adjective you want to use there, offense in the league. Why would you not? Mahomes, okay, Mahomes is pardon my French, Mahomes is a badass and has an outstanding future. Last night, you saw the inexperience of Pat Mahomes come into play with the two strip sacks.
Yeah, let me interrupt real quick about this. This is how unbelievable fate works, too. If Kansas City doesn't trade up with the Bills, that guy, Mahomes, is waiting in the wings behind Drew Brees right now. We have a number 15 back there waiting to go. Can you imagine? Carolina, Atlanta, and Tampa are like, when is this son of a bitch going to retire already? He's 39 years old. When's he going to retire? I can't wait to get Breeze, because like Jim Finks used to say about Joe Montana, you take number 16 out of that 49ers, and they're suddenly very ordinary. Well, that didn't happen because Steve Young came behind him. Can you imagine what Carolina and the rest of the NFL would say if Mahomes came in and stepped in behind Drew Brees? I mean, that would be mind-boggling. You give Sean Payton a guy like Patrick Mahomes, but that's how good I think Mahomes is. And any other year I can say, well, yeah, he does deserve the MVP, but not this year. I'm sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there.
I think that. I'm sorry, I'm getting out of frame again.
No, I'm rocking back to that shit too.
I keep forgetting that the camera is kind of pointed up, and I slumped down in my chair, and it's showing my eyebrows. I think that it was 2011, right? When Breeze won the trophy and they gave it to Aaron Rodgers, and then created this fantasy category for to give Drew Brees a token trophy because he came in second to Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is a new hot thing. Just like in 2006, he should have won an MVP trophy. They gave it to LaDainian Tomlinson. They had talked about for a while that the two of them might win it together, that they went through that little thing. Well, they gave it to LaDainian Tomlinson, who deserved it. I mean, I'm not going to diminish his 2,000-yard season, but, 2006, he doesn't get it. 2009, they gave it to Peyton Manning because he's Peyton Manning, Then in 2011, it's Aaron Rodgers. So, it's always a but. Yeah, you did well, but this guy's doing better. And we have yet another but going on.
Yeah. But,
yeah.
See what I did there? Mahomes is going to go on to have an absolutely brilliant career. I have no doubt whatsoever. And he's absolutely setting the league on fire right now with what he's doing. And I'm fantasy football be damned. I'm one of Mahomes' biggest fans. And when I heard that the Saints had eyed him, I mean, I was like wiping my mouth because I was drooling. I absolutely would have loved to have had Patrick Mahomes on this team. But, with that, and we're not going to go into that debate here and now, with the reality that if we had drafted Pat Mahomes, there would be the pressure for Breeze to be gone by now. That's neither here nor there. Patrick Mahomes is going to have an absolutely, barring injury or absolute malfunction upstairs, he's going to go on to have a brilliant career in this league. You saw, as I said earlier, you saw last night the lack of experience with the 2 strip sacks, the game on the line, and the 2 inexplicable picks that he threw. And to be honest with you, I would have rather that he had thrown it to a defensive lineman than to throw it to Marcus Peters. I really would. But that's the breaks of the game. To Saints fans, I want to kind of hip you to something that you're not going to get from Sports Center and you're not going to get from the NFL Network. Okay, we're 9-1. The Rams are now 10-1. Yes, they have the better record. They have not had a damn bye week yet. When they have their bye, if we continue to win and they continue to win, our records are going to match. And guess what? We have the head-to-head. So we will be ahead of them. Don't panic. Don't get your drawers in a bunch. It's not as bad as what all these talking heads on all these programs are going to lead you to believe.
Yep. Yeah. Well, part of the thing with them is they've got to. You can't have everybody agree. They got to have a debate. So they're gonna say things to keep that debate alive, even if they feel like, hey, you know what, he really does deserve the MVP because he is the MVP of the league. They're still going to bring up other people's names. You notice that Todd Gurley's kind of disappeared from the discussion. It's only a matter of time. You've seen the resuscitation of the Dallas Cowboys in the discussion of, are they a playoff team and all these other things. It's what the media does. They're going to pump up other things just to get people to talk about it. And, it is what it is. I think last night pretty much confirmed the fact that Drew Brees is the MVP of the league because of the things that you talked about. And that's just what it is. My only concern, of course, is the last MVP that won a Super Bowl was back in 1999, Kurt Warner. No other MVP.
Wow.
Yeah, no other MVP has won a Super Bowl. League MVP has won a Super Bowl. So, and that's
Mahomes. Mahomes.
That's different from a Super Bowl MVP. I'm talking about league MVP. Before somebody says, hey, dumbass, he won the MVP in 2009. That was for the Super Bowl, not league MVP. So, yeah, it's kind of like the Heisman first a little bit.
And how did that turn out for the league MVP, Mr. Aaron Rodgers? He is the modern day reincarnation of Brett Favre.
Well, in 2011 he won the league MVP and he lost the divisional round of the playoffs. So that's the things when you win that trophy, it's not a guarantee of anything. So
gunslingers only have one way to die, and that's in a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to leave that right there.
There you go.
This is I want to say the last Saints game that I remember being on Thanksgiving Day was several years ago.
They've only had two. They've only had two. This will be the second one. Yeah, the Cowboys are the first
Roy
time.
Williams.
Yep.
That was the day. Oh, make sure I'm on the right side here. That was the day that I got that from Jennifer Giles Tattooing. Got my first Saints tattoo, and I was sick as a dog too. But anyway, she's doing the tattoo while I'm sitting there trying to watch the game, and she's telling me to be still. What's been the best, as far as football goes, the best memory that you have on Thanksgiving Day?
Oh man.
I'm talking about NFL.
Okay. I was going to say, you're going to see my post on Thanksgiving Day. It'll be 40 years.
I'm not talking about the vacant lot skull dragging Danny.
It's the game. It'll be 40 years this Thanksgiving. And he owes me, there's a rematch because of questionable officiating. But anyway, we'll talk about that. You'll see my post. It'll be quite.
I already know what you're talking about.
Thanksgiving 1978. We'll talk about that at Thanksgiving Day. 40 years. Questionable officiating awarded him a game that he did not deserve to win. I have the photos to prove it. Anyway. Every time I think of, poor Danny, he won. And he deserved to win that game. Anyway,
one thing that I have learned about Alan, Alan can hold a grudge.
If I am wronged, you will. I do not forget. That's what it is. Anyway, every time you think about a Thanksgiving game, I have to go back. Now I'm revealing my age, but I have to go back to 1974. With the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Redskins. Roger Staubach gets knocked out of the game.
Yeah.
And Clint Longley comes in and throws those touchdown passes. I mean, that is like the quintessential Thanksgiving game I can think of with the Cowboys. But, the Brett Favre Packers against what was left of Jimmy Johnson's Cowboys, that was a good game, even though the Packers lost. The Leon Let It Alone snow game in Texas Stadium against the Dolphins, where the Dolphins stole a win against the Cowboys. That was another good one. See, Detroit doesn't have any good memories. I mean, if I go to the Detroit games, I remember, I think it was, it went to overtime, and the Bears returned, I think it was 83 or 81. The Bears returned the kickoff in overtime for a touchdown. The game was over. That's how fast that game ended. Ndamukong Suh stomping on that Packers lineman. That happened on Thanksgiving Day too. But it's going to be mainly the Cowboys games.
While you're on that subject, I'll interject a little bit here. I hope that the league absolutely draws and quarters his pocketbook for that garbage Bush League bullshit that he pulled on Pat Mahomes last night. That hit that he
this is Sue. Every time, and I have to admit it, I was one of those guys like, maybe Sue could fit in with this culture and we'll keep him straight. We could use some money big. Don't give him a lot of money, but looking at it now, he's the same guy. He will always be the same guy. He gets frustrated when he's not dominating and he does stupid shit. And I'm telling you, in a playoff game, they're going to frustrate him to the point where he's going to make a mistake like that. And it's going to cost the Rams. And I knew it would happen. I was not shocked by that at all. That's exactly what I expected. I saw that play develop, and I thought,
Man, I'm so glad that we dodged that bullet.
And I'm sorry.
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. Well, we got to wrap it up anyway because we're already at 9:30 and we've gone on way too long. But, that one last thing, that was an all-star officiating crew that called that game. All-star? That was like an all-blind officiating crew that called that game. That had to have been one of the worst.
I am here to tell you they interjected themselves so much into that game. And, I didn't have a dog in the fight, but, you move the venue to be a home game for the Rams. And then every call that you make in the first 2.5 quarters of the game benefits the Rams.
Yeah. That. And then, the touchdown that Goff scores, the offensive lineman gets about a 2.5 head start on that false. He's a huge false start, and then he compounds it by holding D Ford. He just hooks him and just holds him in a headlock. And I'm like, yeah, no wonder Goff got a nice run for a touchdown. Look at the guy. Look at 79.
I was a cover corner when I played. And I can tell you that the vast majority of those 795 pass interference or holding or whatever calls that they made on that opening drive for the Rams were garbage. And that's the only presentable word that I can think of to use.
I say the same thing, and this is my last thing I'm going to say, but I say the same thing when we talk about basketball. If you're going to call a game a certain way, call it both ways. If we're going to go all ticky-tack stuff and throw the flag on anytime you touch a receiver, then you got to call it both ways. You can't let one side mug receivers and the other side get all the penalties if they touch a receiver. Let them both mug each other or throw the flag every time somebody touches a receiver, period, on the field. And that's how I want it to be called. You're going to call 10 penalties on the Chiefs? You better call 10 penalties on the Rams for the same shit. And they weren't doing that. So that was my stink on that stuff. Anyway.
It was bad enough that I sit there and watch the game last night with Michelle, and the Rams would kick off and there'd be a flag.
Yeah.
And she'd say, well, it's a penalty on the Chiefs. Then the Chiefs would kick off. It's another penalty on the Chiefs. I know that you have this narrative that you absolutely have to feed, and this agenda that you have to. And
I'm not a conspiracy guy when it comes to the NFL. I'm really not. But games like that feed conspiracy theories, and games like that make you say, maybe there is something to this.
Yeah,
maybe this is what they want, because I can tell you the league was very happy to see all those seats filled with Rams fans last night. They like that. That's what this is all about, because you look at the poor Chargers, nobody goes in that stadium. It's other teams' fans in that stadium, and that stadium sees 30,000 people, and the Chargers are good. But nobody's there. That was a stupid owner who decided to jump on the new stadium bandwagon, thought he could make San Diego build a new stadium. They said no. So he went to Los Angeles, and there's no history with that team. There's no interest in having two football teams. You got more Raider fans than you got Rams and Charger fans in Los Angeles. And, that was a stupid idea. He's going to have to bring that team back to San Diego. But he's going to – I feel bad for the Chargers because the players have put out a good product, and no one's watching them. And it really is a shame. But that's on the owners. That's their problem.
Anyway, it's going to be an issue when team says, hey, we're going to move to this city. And so later they say, hey, I want to change my mind. Can we come back?
Well, it's an interesting, and we'll have to talk about this another time, but it's an interesting dynamic because this is the first time that I can think of a franchise moving to another city and having a hard time getting fans to support that team, because the Ravens went into Baltimore, Baltimore embraced them. The Cardinals went to Arizona. Arizona had a good bit of support, more than they had in St. Louis. And the same with the Rams going to St. Louis. You know, you had football fans there. You have a team going over to Los Angeles, and they don't have a fan base. They really don't. And it's just it's really an eye-opening experience for these owners. But the league is not going to let it fail. But quietly, I think they're going to make them move back to San Diego. I just feel that in my, so we'll see. We'll see. In the meantime, Sean, Thursday night's Turkey Day. Enjoy. The Saints have only played on Turkey Day twice now. This will be the second time. Hopefully, we win this one too, and we make it a regular occurrence. We get to play Detroit maybe one time on Turkey Day. I'd like to have that too. So
Anyway, Detroit is always going to play on Thanksgiving. Detroit and Dallas will always.
Yeah, that's a tradition starting in the '60s. So that was
all I got to tell them is line up. We giving out free ass whippings this year.
There we go. Thank you, guys.
I want to thank everybody for joining us. Wish you all a very, very, very happy Thanksgiving with your family, friends, and everyone. We want to thank you guys for supporting us, because without you, there's no us.
Absolutely.
And on behalf of my tag team partner, Mr. Alan Ulrich, I'm Sean Williams, and from Under the Dome, we bid you a very happy Thanksgiving holiday and good night.
Good night, everybody.